Hello, my name is Andy Hope Williams Jr., also known as the Hood President. That comes from in 2020, I ran for President of the United States and I was the Hood candidate, meaning I come from the neighborhood. So from that, after the election, getting the votes that I got, I self-declared myself as the Hood President, bringing the streets together, bringing the nation together, defending our rights, our inalienable rights that we were endowed with by a creator, whomever, whatever that may be, to stop the government from oppressing us. So currently what I'm working on are declaratory judgments declaring the acts of the police and the government are unconstitutional because they violate our rights. And there's a little thing called the Private Attorney General Act that allows a regular citizen in their own name to act as a private attorney general to declare the rights of a class of people are being violated. And it's only against the states, the government, or local municipalities. And right now, just recently on Tuesday, in the city of Aurora, Illinois, I filed a lawsuit declaring that the police department is a badge and incident of slavery under the 13th Amendment. What that really basically means is that when the 13th Amendment was passed, part of it, besides just abolishing slavery and involuntary servitude, it declared to abolish every remnant and relic of slavery. And if you step back for a second, we can look in the United States, and what the government is doing is basically oppressing the people in our own communities. And what I've done is say, listen, when the 13th Amendment was passed, there's a thing called slave patrols where certain people, mostly from the plantations that were being ran on, and the overseers became the police, and they would go after what they called runaway slaves and lock them up. So I'm saying that is the evolution of where the police department came from today, and I'm declaring that's unconstitutional. It's the first time from my research I've seen something been filed this way. So we're going to see how it works out. That's what I'm working on. And we plan to take that around the world, the nation, pretty much. Not just that suit, but even for the taxes, you know, how we got to go to the DMV and constantly each year pay for license renewals. For what? We have the freedom to travel under the Constitution. And these are things that I see that the American people have been put in bondage by a government that was created to protect the rights of the people, not oppress the rights of the people. So we're in the process of changing that around to have the free nation that we claim to be.
Is Lori Lightfoot doing a better job than Rahm Emanuel did?
So I don't look to the politicians to do a better job. I look to the people to do the better job. And as long as we're looking to a mayor, a governor, or a president to fix the problem, we're never going to fix the problem because we haven't fixed it yet. What I do look like, and I talk about my brother Tyrone Muhammad, some of his methods are very head on, but he actually is operating with a solution. There's other people, T.O. Hardiman had the violence interrupters. And I say that because Chicago, there's several community organizations that are doing the grassroots work, literally doing the work, but they're not getting the funding. So what I would look at with the government as well as the people to come together, like Dr. King would say, to the table of brotherhood. And let's say I have experience in gangs, crimes, prison, because I've been there and changed my life. You have experience in government and politics. After 50 years, we ain't got it to work yet. Maybe that's because we're not working together. And that would be my approach. So I wouldn't say, you know, did Rahm do a great job, or the history of Chicago will look like no mayor did a great job, maybe other than Harold Washington. But again, that was before I was even into politics. So I wouldn't, you know, no. But I will tell you about this Mayor Barry out of Washington. You know, he was a politician. He did a great job out there. I mean, he had some drug situation, they said, but man, that brother did some good things out there. He did. I watched a documentary on him. So that's a mayor that I really appreciate. And then if we talk about presidents, the favorite president for me in all time is Jimmy Carter. He's still serving the people, building houses, Habitat for Humanity. See, that's the business of building a nation that needs that looks like it should be. Like Jimmy Carter represents servanthood for the people. That's what he does. So I stay inspired by him. What prompted me to run for president is because I felt nobody else had the experience that I had that can talk politics. You know, my stepmom is German, so I definitely can't say I'm racist. I have two little, mixed brothers, even though they both passed on in life. My wife's Puerto Rican. You know, I just have a whole thing that I see color, but I'm not color judging you. I'm not gonna say, oh, because you're this skin color, you're a bad person. No, there's a system that if we can sit down and dialogue and teach and educate and learn, then we'll see, hey, maybe we both do want the same thing. If the police want to go home because they're afraid, well then damn, don't go in the damn neighborhood Jacob Blake is at if you're afraid. Don't go over there because you're scared. So when you're scared and fear, you operate in that. And I think that's what some of the police in this generation, I'm seeing they're operating out of a level of fear, out of a level of control, and we see the results of it.
Do you think that the militarization of the police is in part because of the fact that we've had all these conflicts in the Middle East over the last 20 years, and that we see the military surplus being sold off to police departments? Do you think that's part of it too?
I think it's got a lot to do with that war on drugs, and it has a lot to do with that. And basically, we're going to fund the police departments to do this. I mean, you coming up to raid somebody's house for drugs, which that whole war on drugs was really a war on the left, the hippies, and the war on people of color. It really wasn't a drug war, because we can go back to Henry Anslinger, who kicked all this crap off with Billie Holiday and then J. Edgar Hoover. Like, if we just trace the history, we can see that. And so when you have somebody like in Compton or Chicago, whatever, and you using battering rams to do a raid, what is this that we doing? So it's the whole propaganda behind all of this, and we know it now, but we're not making major changes to change it. So
well, I was just saying the other day that it's like a rigged game where, if you think how under the Reagan administration, they were bringing the drugs into the country. So they bring the drugs in, then they arrest people for using the drugs, and then they send them to jail where there's more drugs.
Right. It's all about economic. It's all about, I'm a historian. So when I see the history of after the 13th Amendment passed and how the South fought that, because the slave labor gave them such a big economic base. That has never changed. $80 billion a year for prison for crimes where there's no injury. Like, if I'm selling drugs or I'm using drugs, who is injured by that? If I'm a prostitute and I'm selling my body, who was injured by that? You're in my personal business, what I'm doing, because nobody is being harmed by that. And we can say, oh, well, this is happening. Well, as people, we have a choice. Now, when we talk about murder and taking other people's property, that's a different level. That's Article 3 of the Constitution says, we would have standing to come into that. But before the prosecutors was prosecuting people, actual people could bring another person up on charges. That was the beginning. So how did the state begin to take over all of this? The economic profit margin behind that. That's what this whole system is all rigged about, is economic, that dollar, that profit, that greed. That's why we got the homeless stuff out here, because there's a greed behind that. The militarization of war, I can't think of who Nelson Mandela. 2 weeks ago, I heard him, I was listening to him, and he said, we can't make the mistake of making the politician's enemy our enemy. Just because the politician says there's a war going on, that's our enemy, we can't make that same mistake and say they're our enemy. And that's what we've been basically taught to believe. If you say it's a war going on in Iraq, we just say it's a war going on in Iraq. If there's a war going on with what's Osama bin Laden, we take that war. Bullshit, that's personal shit between the Bush and his mother. They got shit to do with us. So that's kind of like how we've been doing. And I learned that from this A&E documentary on Osama bin Laden. If y'all never saw it, you should check it out. Because you would see Osama bin Laden in a different aspect of him rising up to say, I'm tired of our people getting screwed over and tortured and killed from the United States. So he rose up and he was a billionaire, front line, in the war. Like, this stuff amazes me. And again, I do this all from history. So I love A&E. A&E, I love that channel.
Before we go, where can people follow your work?
I have a website called Hood President, HOOD President.com. And that site, you will always be able to email me off of that site, get me off of that site. I have an old site, AndyWilliamsJr.com. That still works. My name will always be that. But I'll pretty much always be known as the Hood President right now because that's the brand. That's what I'm going.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you for taking the time to talk today.
Okay. Thank you.